YouTube.
All the kids happy? The wife happy?
Yes, 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 and yes.
Good. I like your avatar.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh,
Oh, it's an avatar. Is that what they're bloody?
yeah.
Yeah, it's an animation app thing. Change turn one of my pictures into a cartoon, supposedly, or animation.
Hello, people. Welcome to Main Event Boxing Talk. We're live. Hello, Tom.
Hey. Hi, Nathan. Happy New Year.
Hello, Spencer.
What's going on, man?
Do you have a TV on?
I hope everyone had a good Christmas. I did.
That's good.
Who's got the TV on the background?
I mean,
All right. So,
Right,
what's
let's
the
go
first
with it.
topic?
well, I made a list of things. We could do a year-end wrap-up of 2022, and the first thing I put on was Joe Cordina when he won the IBF Junior Lightweight title with a brilliant knockout, and then he broke his hand, and then he was stripped of the title. So, but
Yeah, that was pretty harsh.
Yeah, it was brilliant in his win. What did you guys think of it?
Yeah, it was a good win. That was kind of quick for them to pull a trigger. They didn't even like try to have a interim fight or anything. It's like they want to hurry up and move it along.
Right. Well, I hope he comes back. I mean, he was very exciting to watch. Beautiful timing, beautiful form. I hope he can come back and win the title back. They didn't even put him in in waiting or anything like that. They just stripped him.
Didn't even give him any
Yeah.
a voluntary. They didn't give him anything. They should have put an interim. It's wrong. Guy was only champion 3 months.
Yeah, that's the thing about the IBF. The IBF isn't really one of the organizations that do the interim championship titles that much. The other ones will do that, but they don't really do that, and they don't have a champion in recess or emeritus champion status in that organization either. So he,
But
being that he's injured, he can't like take a break and then come back. He should be able to fight for the title as soon as he comes back, even if they strip him.
That would be
But we
just.
know why the IBF is so strict because of what happened in the early 90s. I watched
Yeah,
a
years
documentary
ago.
where Shannon Briggs was paid a certain amount of money for him to go to the rankings to the IBF with Don King. That's why, because of all the dodgy shit that happened in the early 90s.
Yeah. They were really
Corrupt.
I mean, all of them were, but they were really corrupt and they were kind of blatant. I think they was ranking dead fighters, things like that. So, like it's just like all of them have their little corruption, as I said. So,
The
but they
pendulum
got
swung the other way. Yeah.
I mean,
but
we're talking
it
about
got so bad with them that they have to do things on the straight and narrow, or else they get shut down. You know.
Right.
I mean, we are talking about an organisation that gave Marvin Campbell the first belt. They awarded it to, and they also awarded it to everybody. Larry, dearie me. Right. Well.
All right. Well, then he was brilliant when he won the title. The next one is
yeah.
Lee Wood defeats Michael Conlon. What did you guys think of that win?
Good fight.
Yeah.
Very good fight.
Yeah, that was a good fight. Colin was probably he was up. He was
edgy.
He was going to probably win if it went the full 12 rounds, but he couldn't get to that final bell, and that's what happens when you can't get there.
I do feel if they had a rematch,
Ask Jermaine Taylor, he's happy.
If Conlon had a rematch with Lee Wood now, Conlon would win the rematch. So I thought now.
Well,
I think Lee Wood got lucky in the last round. He really got lucky.
Well, to be fair to Lee Wood, his last two victories, he's been better, right? He's been getting better than he was before.
Yeah.
So his next time out, he might be even better than his last time out.
Yeah.
I don't think they set up to fight though next. I think Lee Wood is going to fight somebody else.
is one of them fighters. Do you remember a British guy who was a IBF light heavyweight champion? I can't remember his name, but he was a British guy. He lost to Glenn Johnson, and he fought Roger Clinton Woods. Do you remember him?
Okay, yeah.
He reminds me of him a little bit. He'll only get so far. Like I think Conlon by the end of his career will have a better career when it's all said and done. I think Lee Woods, he's like a Max Hughes. He seems to get better and better.
Well, Conlon was a better amateur than Lee Woods. So if you was to see at the end of both of their careers, it would be expected that Conlon would have achieved more because he would have been better. But Lee Wood, as far as what he has, he did way more. He exceeded way more expectations than a lot of people thought he would. Nobody thought he would be a featherweight.
That was only considered British level before he beat Kanzu. He seems to have got better. So I do believe he'll get better. But I believe he'd beat Carl Frampton. Not Carl Frampton. He'd beat Josh Warrington quite comfortably, I believe. Seriously.
Yeah, that would be I wouldn't mind seeing that fight to see what happens, but I don't think Josh should get a damn title shot.
No, I'd pick Lee Wood because he's more hungry,
Yeah.
More hungry fighter.
Well, hopefully Conlon learns, not to engage all the time and to use his boxing skill. Yeah. He looked like he was doing that in his last fight. So if there's a rematch, it should be interesting. Don't forget when you get knocked out like that and you go back in the ring with the same guy, you're going to be a little
tentative. Yeah, you can, sometimes you get a little tentative.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, next one.
Bam Bam Rodriguez, who was up for Fighter of the Year, defeated Sora Rungvisai and captured the WBC Super Featherweight Championship. What do you think of this guy? You think how much farther can he go? He's only 22.
I thought he won a title in the fight before that, and he was defending it again.
He unified two of them. He did.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's he's good, but he's dropping back down. I'm hearing, so he's vacating that title he just won to go back to junior flyweight. It's impressive. He is my fighter of the year, as I told y'all before, because of him jumping up in weight, beating two of the top 10 guys in that weight class, which many consider is a tough, is a competitive weight class, especially amongst the top people. And he beat two of them. So,
and not only did he beat them beautifully with his boxing, Sora Rungvisai is a wrecking machine if you get too close to him, and he just took him apart.
Yeah, it looked like he was on a different level. And he defended. He fought 3 times in a year, so that's also part of the reason why I gave Fight of the Year. It was impressive. It was definitely impressive. Put his name on the radar for a lot of people.
It's true. What did you think, Nathan?
Good. He's a very good fighter. He's going to get better. Good.
Well, that brings us to 4, the guy who did win Fighter of the Year, which was Dimitri Bivol, for his defeat of Canelo. So, a lot of people put him on the radar because he beat the pound-for-pound king.
Yeah.
So at this point, it looks like Bivol wants only to fight Beterbiev next. So what do you guys think of his defeat of Canelo and him becoming Fight of the Year in this past year?
It was very impressive performance. He outboxed him in every department. It was a really good world-class performance,
Yeah, it was a good performance without question. Taking nothing away from him. He got the. I understand why they gave him Fight of the Year. He beat the Canelo, who is like now one of the faces of boxing. So when you do that, you get those kind of accolades. He also, to put icing on it, he beat a tough competitor prior to the fight. He didn't look like a tough competitor in the fight, but prior to the fight, it was on paper supposed to be a good fight in Zurdo when he fought Ramirez. So, he had 2 good fights against 2 top-notch Mexican warriors. So kudos to Bivol. I like that he wants to fight Beterbiev. So let's see that, because I wanna see that.
Yeah, I think he's got Canelo's number, and if he defeats Beterbiev, then
You know
I don't
what?
think Canelo's going
I
to want to take
would pick him to beat Beterbiev at this point. I know Beterbiev is a killing machine, but I think Bivol can match him.
I
So
want to see it because I
think he
want to
can.
see it because for whatever reason, man, I don't know what that guy got in his gloves. But
It's either lead, probably lead, Victorian
yo,
lead.
he might be pumping iron for real in his fist.
He's got his
The
chin.
thing with Bivol is that he's so big for the weight, isn't it? Bivol's very tall and big for that weight. You know, he's
And
massive for the weight.
he's a
Really.
solid guy too. Yeah, he's not. Yeah, he's
I
just.
think the way he's carrying on, he'll be fighting at cruiserweights. The way he's carrying on.
He has a lot of speed too. A lot of speed.
Yeah, he's up
Does he
there
have
in
the
age,
power
so
to beat top cruiserweights? Does he have the power? That's the only question.
yeah, he got to get up there quickly because he's like 37, 38. So he's up there in age.
I'm talking about Bivol. Sorry, Bivol.
Oh, Bivol.
Yeah, he feels
Bivol is tall, but he's kind of he's tall. I don't know if he has the power at cruiserweight
No, I
to
don't
stop
think
those
he has
guys,
to be a
but
top.
he could outbox those guys up there.
well that he showed that in his last fight, with Ramirez.
No,
Yeah.
he's a cruiserweight, really.
Really?
Yeah.
Heavy.
Or even a
Yeah,
heavyweight pushing 200.
yeah. He's surely a heavyweight back in the 70s.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But then,
But
but then after that, we have at number 5, Canelo defeats GGG now at 168. I didn't think this was a meaningful fight, to be honest with you.
yeah, it was a wasted. Yeah, Nathan.
It was what they call a money spinner. I didn't want to see this fight at all. I thought it was a waste of. It was.
Yeah, it was surely not the fight that a lot of people were asking for, minus, obviously the Golovkin fans that might have wanted to see Golovkin redeem himself. I mean, by history in itself, Golovkin looked the best of their matchups in the first matchup. Canelo kind of didn't look that great in this last one, but you could see he kind of was able to deal with Golovkin by the second fight. So I didn't really expect a different turnout. I expected Canelo to win by decision or something. I wasn't expecting no knockouts either way. It wasn't a fight like we were saying. It wasn't a fight that the masses was asking for. And even if Golovkin would have won, they really didn't answer no questions because it would have still been 1-1-1. So,
well, while we're on the subject of GGG, I put this down later, but we don't have to revisit this. GGG in 2002 actually collected another belt and has 3 of the middleweight championship belts now.
Yeah.
So he's unifying the belts at 160. So we'll see what he decides to do after this.
Listen, he fought Murata because it was a fight that was easily negotiated to be able to be done. I don't know if he's going to fight. He gets at least 8 figures now, or he has been getting 8 figures for his fights. So I don't know if Bob Arum will be willing to pay him that amount of money to fight Janibek, and whether or not Janibek will want to fight his idol. But you gotta. I'm just looking at it as from all angles because of the amount of money. GGG is a vet in the game, and his price range to fight is going to be a little pricey. He was getting 10 million on the zone for fighting the likes of Steve Rose and those guys. So he's gonna want to fight a Janibek or a Charlo. He's gonna want like 8 figures. So you want to see him.
He should get it.
Yeah, no, without question. But with Bob Arum, Bob Arum isn't, like always the most generous guy giving out purses. He'll rather his guy fight off of the next promoter's dime than he fight. Like he put his guy up anyway. So that's the only thing about him fighting Janibek. I would love to see him fight. He has 2 mandatories. Golovkin. He has his IBF mandatory and a WBA that he's supposed to be fighting, but it doesn't seem like he's fighting them. It looks as if they're trying to push him to fight
Mexican guy. What's his name?
Munguia.
Yeah. Jaime.
Yeah. So I don't know if, especially he didn't look that impressive against Canelo. It might be time. He might be right for the pickings that Munguia might be able to squeak out a split decision victory over him.
Well, Canelo did fade, in the 9th round, and he started banging him around the ring, and so we'll see. But
Canelo also said he broke his hand, so maybe that was part of the reason. Like he hurt his hand or something, so maybe that was part of the reason.
He got tired also against Bivol too.
He got tired of getting his ass whipped.
Yeah. So Nathan, what did you think about number 6 here, Beterbiev defeating Joe Smith? Come back, Nathan.
Yeah, what were you going to ask?
What did you think of Beterbiev defeating Joe Smith?
I thought it was pretty impressive, to be honest.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
The way he beat him up like he was nothing. And we're talking about a heavy-handed guy, who's got good knockouts on his record. It was pretty shocking, really. But we always knew that Smith couldn't really box. We know he could fight, but he's not really, he's improved as a boxer, but we knew he was never elite,
Yeah, he wasn't no elite boxer. As far as that fight, I thought Joe Smith was going to lose, but I thought he was going to last a little bit longer than 2 rounds.
Yeah,
2 rounds, right?
Yeah.
Thought he was going
about the 6th round when he got to him, the 7th round.
Yeah, but he's just like.
I think Joe Smith Jr. is one of those guys that wins a world title and doesn't return to that level again, The fact that he won a world title from where he was before when he fought Hopkins, the transformation has been amazing, hasn't it, really? It's been a hell of a journey,
Yeah, listen, I think that it's he might get the fights because he might get some good fights because of his name, but I don't think he wins a title, especially not with the guys that's up there lounging around there.
Not with the current crop of it.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at some of the other guys coming up, like the Boapsis and people like that, and I'm thinking, they might have his number, stylistically.
Yeah, it'll look. Those fights will definitely look good. I think, though.
They're winnable fights for him. They're not the fights he can win. When you've got the kind of knockout power he's got, you've always got a chance.
But you got to think. But you got to think about those super middleweights that's about to start coming up to like heavyweights, where he'd be able to deal with those guys like the Benavidez's and the David Morrell. Those guys.
He wouldn't even beat Canelo. Look, let's be honest. Joe Smith is what he is. He's a brawler. He is what he is. He's nothing more, nothing less.
Hey, he did way better than. Yeah, he did way better than. Again, he's another guy like we was talking about Lee Wood earlier. He definitely exceeded his expectations.
He didn't turn pro until he won the world. He didn't go full time until after he beat Hopkins. For about 5 years, he wasn't even fully pro.
Yeah, he was working as a construction worker. So
yeah.
I think he just came out figuring, let me try to bomb him out while he's cold, and then he wound up getting caught. And that's and all right. So speaking of bombing people out, the heavyweight champion Tyson Fury, number 7 here, defeated White and Chisora by knockout in 2022. So Nathan, what was the word across the pond there about those defeats?
Everyone, for Tyson Fury winning that fight?
Was
everyone thought it was a joke? We all thought it was a joke. Nobody wanted to see this fight.
What about the first one? What about the White fight?
Well, nobody really thought much of that either because we knew what was going to happen. It was a mismatch. We said it, and from the both fights, big mismatch.
If nobody wanted to see it, why did he sell out the stadium twice?
Because he sells it out. It's not the people he fights. It's him that sells it. because he's a big name, isn't he?
That's right.
He could fight people in bin bags and people would still pay for it,
Well, White was a mandatory, so I'm not, no fault on
No.
Fury taking the White fight because of it being a mandatory, and that he had to take that to maintain the title. It was a big UK fight, The Chisora fight is probably more like why you take that one. I could see more people getting upset with that fight as opposed to the White fight.
With the fight, because we've already seen it twice. If it had been anybody else like Emmanuel Char, I know obviously that seemed a bigger mismatch. But if it had been somebody who'd not fought before, it wouldn't have bothered me as much. The fact that he's fought this guy the third time in 12 years, we don't need to see it again,
Yeah, and what gets a lot of people upset a lot of times, back in the day, some fighters will fight, they would have non-title fights in between their big fights or whatever. So, you would get a chance to see a fighter fight a nondescript guy if you wanted to. That wasn't what you was waiting 6 to 8 months to see this guy return to the ring to fight a guy that we wasn't asking you to fight. You take all that time off. We want you to get in the ring and fight somebody that the world was asking for. Not, now you done fought this guy. Now we got to wait another 4 to 5 months before you decide on who you want to fight again.
Right.
Yeah.
The talk is Usyk though, so hopefully that's next.
Also,
we talk about Usyk, but at 8 we had Wilder returning with the dramatic first round KO of Robert Helenius. What did you think of that, Nathan?
Great. It was a great performance, but is he really back to his best? The opponent, and also another thing I want to point out is his footwork. When he goes down, he leaves his chin well open. If he fought anyone decent, he would have been knocked out. Have you noticed that when he leans forward, his footwork, he's leaning down, he leaves his chin open? You notice that?
Well, Wilder, you mean?
Yeah, his footwork is terrible.
He always had that. He always had that. That ain't nothing new.
Yeah, but the only guy to knock him out has been Fury.
Yeah, and that's because he was able to. Because he could get to Wilder at the same time Wilder could get to him.
Yeah. But
Wilder usually has the reach advantage over other people that he fights.
Right. The good thing about Wilder is as long as you've got a punch like that, there's not many people that are going to beat you. So he might only have 1 or 2 more losses on his record, unless he gets old over that, As long as he's got that power.
I like to see him with Ruiz next.
Yeah, that's. I think they're gonna try to stage that. I think that's the sensible choice if they can't get Wilder like a AJ fight or Usyk fight.
I have to be honest. I do think Ruiz could be his kryptonite. I'm not saying he's going to beat him, but it could be the same. Ruiz has got that quick hands. Wilder's hands are not as quick. He might.
Yeah, the only thing that helps Wilder out so much is his damn reputation for having that hard blow. So
yeah,
you're right. Ruiz has quick hands and he could get to him quick if Wilder makes a mistake. But Ruiz got to be willing to step into that line.
Walk through fire to get there.
Right. He got to be willing to do I want to test this guy?
So what I mean is Wilder throws those, whatever he throws. Wilder, Ruiz could just come in, tap him with something like, bang. It's over,
I don't think so. I don't think so. Wilder can knock you out with either hand, and Ruiz can knock you out.
You throwing those big hands. When you're doing that, Ruiz could step in, short punch,
Yeah, but he's like you said, he's short.
Wilder is very awkward. It's not going to be that easy.
No, that's the one thing. That's the hard thing about training for Wilder. Like the people that you get to spar to try to emulate what he does, they don't emulate what he does. So you can't really prepare for the way he fights.
Remember, Wilder doesn't have the best chin or the best defense. He's just,
I mean, he got dropped by Luis Ortiz and Fury. I don't
he's got a better chin than Joshua. Yeah, we know that. I mean, I think everyone has.
He might have he got a better chin than White too. It seemed like.
Yeah, everybody has.
So
Let's move on to the next thing here.
Okay.
Crawford and Spence cannot reach a deal. I mean, they both had good fights. Crawford had a very hard fight against Ugas, and Spence had a hard fight against Ugas, and Crawford, dismantled Avanasian. But these guys, can they actually reach a deal this year coming in 2000?
yeah, I'm not sure. Like Crawford wanted to make money. Supposedly Crawford wanted to make money in 2022, so he took the Avanasian fight. They was close to finalizing a deal supposedly for the early part of 2023, but the Avanasian fight has now pushed that fight back a little bit. Spence carrying 3 belts; those mandatories are starting to come knocking. The IBF is telling him he's going to have to fight Ennis. I think the WBC told him he's going to have to fight Thurman. So, he has to start either fight Bud Crawford or fight one of these mandatories or vacate the titles and move up. So, he has options, but we'll see what those options are. I don't mind any of the options that's there. I would love to see him fight Bud Crawford, but I wouldn't mind seeing him fight one of the mandatories that he got. Those would be interesting fights.
Yeah, they would be. I agree. Well, we have Ennis coming up. Keep an eye on him. We got a couple guys down there that are coming up that look good.
Ortiz, Rashidi Ellis is just doing the thing. I don't know if you put this down, but he was calling out Ennis, saying he would want to fight him too.
Yeah, I know that. I was only listing like the top guys and what they did during the year. There's a whole show we could just do on up and coming contenders too.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Yeah.
Oh, this is like a year-end show because there wasn't nothing out that happened last weekend, right? No fights that happened.
Yeah, and I think Virgil Ortiz needs a little more seasoning before he gets in the ring with either of those guys.
Yeah.
What did you say, Nathan?
For next week, Spencer, you could do next week's show. We could take it in turns doing shows sometimes, like half the list and stuff or whatever. Somebody does fast stuff, then somebody else does fast stuff.
We're just doing a year-end wrap-up right here. I think it would be good to do, just to see, get our bearings. But on number 10, we have Usyk defeating Joshua again. So, Nathan, what happened over there? What was the opinion over there?
Was Joshua, he was just doing the same thing again. He didn't really learn from the first fight. There was no point of really having a rematch. He got so badly outboxed in the first one, Second one, he redeemed himself a bit more. But,
I would agree.
What did you guys think of that 9th round where he almost had Usyk out, and then, the 8th round, and then Usyk came back and just...
There were people saying on the YouTube channels that he should have finished him off. He should have gone for the knockout. When I watched it, I thought, why are you not going for the knockout?
I remember. We were watching that together, remember?
Yeah, but he could have taken him out. Remember, I said to him he could take him out. And he said he's going to step off the gas here. And then in those last 3 rounds, that's where he lost the fight. The last 3 rounds. Because other than that, he was in control, wasn't he?
Yeah, again, he did better, in my opinion, he did better in this fight than he did in the second fight. So,
if he fought like he used to fight, he would have knocked him out. If he'd fought like the old Joshua, he would have got him out of there.
Right. Possible. Because at that time where he had him hurt, he would have definitely pushed forward.
I think there's a mental problem with Joshua. He doesn't want to pull the trigger. He doesn't want the Ruiz to do. He needs to get rid of that. If you're a fighter, you can't think like, I'm going to get clipped here. You have to go for it, don't you? You can't.
Yeah, you got to get rid of them demons.
Sometimes you've got to take risks.
Yeah, you got to get rid of them demons.
Yeah, something definitely changed there for Fort Ruiz.
Something mentally missing from him. And I don't know if he'll ever get it back.
He didn't have that when he won the title against, against Klitschko. But then after he lost to Ruiz, you could see the confusion on his face. Like he turned, what's happening to me? He asked his corner that, like, what's happening?
Like, the problem with
Joshua, that's what's happening to you.
Right. It's simple. The problem with him is he has too many yes men in his corner. He's listed too many ideas. You have too many ideas in your head. You're not going to know which direction to go. So all he had to do was get a coach, somebody that's not going to bullshit him or tell him the truth. You know,
I guess also,
he was a good coach. You know,
I guess also, Tom, with the difference between what happened with Vlad putting him down and Ruiz putting him down, he actually beat Vlad that, and so that
Yeah, he
could
got
be
up. He got up.
he got up
He fought him.
and actually beat him. He was tired. Vlad could have beat him in that fight because remember at one point I think AJ kind of like was like huffing and puffing. It was like, just like if Vlad wasn't tired himself, or if he wasn't as inactive as he was at the time, he might have been able to pull a trigger on AJ and beat him at that time. But
maybe he wasn't 40 years old.
right, but he also was. Vladimir Klitschko had a better reputation than versus Ruiz. The fact that he lost to Ruiz kind of might have took a whole bunch of air out of his balloon because he was on top of the world. He was coming to New York for the first time. He was, had billboards all up in Madison Square Garden area and all of that on him. So
I don't think it ever entered his mind that Ruiz could hurt him.
And then when it did, it was like, oh wow.
Yeah. It's a shame there's not. It's a shame there's not an Emmanuel Stewart still alive to help him out. That would solve his problems. Emmanuel Stewart type.
Or Eddie Futch, Eddie
I think what's it called will work wonders with him if you ask me, Buddy McGirt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it would because he doesn't bullshit. He says, "I want you to stick to the jab, attack."
Yeah, and he'll tell him what to do in the corner in between the rounds. He'll give him in-fight instruction that a lot of the trainers are not doing like they used to.
Right.
Like waking that guy up. If you're losing, wake him up. Like, yo, you better snap out of this because you're going to get beat the hell up, yo.
Also, I forgot his name, but what's his name? Andre's trainer. What was his name?
Virgil Hunter. Virgil.
You don't think so?
What about
I'm not a big fan of Virgil Hunter only because I've seen his work with a lot of other fighters not named Andre Ward, and he's not as successful with those guys. They're not as successful. And he had Ward when he was a kid. So the relationship that him and Andre Ward had formed is different than him picking up somebody and trying to do that mental stuff, like trying to do that mental stuff that he had working with Ward. He can't really turn these guys around like that. That's been fighting under a certain way so long. It's not the easiest way to he doesn't have the easiest.
For a few years.
What was that, Nathan?
He did well with Amir Khan for a few years.
He did.
Yeah.
It's all right. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about this fabulous young fighter, Haney, who's the undisputed unified lightweight champion, goes back to Australia and beats Kambosos again in his backyard. So what did you think of his win at this point and being holding all the belts?
Very, very impressive. But I feel he has won the titles too early in his career.
Too early?
I think there's a bit more seasoning that needed to be done. Do you know what I mean? In my opinion.
Well, considering the landscape of that division, the only old guy in that division is Lomachenko. Everybody else is in and around Haney's age.
He's a good old guy.
No, but everybody else in that division is in around his age. Shakur, Tank, the other guy, Ryan, all of those guys is young guys. So now is the time for him to be winning the titles. Lomachenko versus him should be a good one, though. Good test for him.
I do believe he'll be at 140 very soon. Within a year or so, he'll be at 140. There's nothing left for him to do in that division. He needs to move on.
After his top rank deal is up, I think he's moving up.
Yeah, I can't wait to see more of him, to be honest with you, because I think you're right, he needs more seasoning, but he has everything. He's a great boxer. He can punch.
Look, I think when I first saw him fight 5 years, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah.
I looked at this guy and I thought he looks good. He's going to be a world champion, but I didn't think he would be this good. He'd get there so quickly. I thought it would take a few more years before he unified it and he moved up,
Well,
I do believe that. Yeah, carry on.
I mean, Kambosos was not an easy guy to beat.
No, Kambosos is a very good fighter.
Right.
Very good. But
Right.
the way Devin Haney's going, carry on.
No, go ahead, Nathan.
But the way Haney's career is going on, he's going to be one of the all-time greats, I think. When it's all done, he reminds me of younger Terence Crawford almost. Obviously not stylistically, but the way he's come up through the ranks, pretty quickly.
Well, that's a good lead into number 12 with Gervonta Davis defeating Rolly Romero, and now he's on a collision course with Ryan Garcia.
Can we just say the woman beater? The woman beater, yeah.
All right. Well, allegedly until proven guilty, right?
Yeah.
Allegedly. Let's say allegedly because he hasn't had his day in court yet, but he does have a history of domestic violence.
He's a great fighter.
Well, anyway, he has a history with the law.
What's your opinion?
He has a history with the law. The fight against Rolly, it was impressive. I think Rolly had made a name for himself in the fight against Tank. It helped Rolly's career somewhat fighting Tank. But the guy that Tank is supposed to fight, I think Tank, Hector Garcia that he's supposed to be fighting next weekend, I think that one is going to be an easy win for Tank.
Oh yeah.
And it's definitely a good lead into the Ryan Garcia fight supposedly happening in April.
Do you know that Tank has a 93% knockout ratio?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
It only took that one uppercut, to derail Romero, just walking right into that uppercut.
Was that 135 or 140, that fight? It was 135, wasn't it?
Yeah, 135. Yeah.
And that was he's the regular champion, at 135, correct?
Yeah, the WBA world, yeah.
Wasn't he the light 140 WBA champion as well, but he vacated it or something? Am I right?
Yeah, when he beat Mario Barrios, because Barrios was the WBA world champion. So he beat him.
He'll be going up to 140 soon.
I'm not sure. He might stick around 135.
Well, then I'd like to see him against Shakur Stevenson at some point.
I wouldn't mind.
He's better than Haney. I think he's a better fighter than Haney right now, as it currently stands. But whether it's that way in a year's time, 2 years' time, probably not. I don't know.
He might be a tougher out.
Yeah, he's a little bit better. He's definitely above in front of Haney, in my opinion. He's one title at 140, 135.
Division is heating up, and 135, 140 is a very interesting division coming next year.
Mm-hmm.
Matchups that
we don't at 135. We don't really know who the best is, really, do we? Not really.
Well, it's supposed to be Haney because he's the undisputed champion.
You've got guys like Lomachenko and two guys that could probably beat him. Seriously,
right?
That's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but
say that again. I didn't hear it.
I said I think right now, if you put Lomachenko in there with Davis, if you put Davis in there, and Lomachenko in there with Haney, I think they beat him. Both guys beat him currently.
Shakur might beat him.
Yeah, even Shakur.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying at the moment.
135 or 140, 135.
Nah, he officially moved up. His last fight, he was supposed to be defending the two titles, but he didn't make weight.
Yeah, now it's 135.
So he got stripped. So he had decided to move up.
This is his third weight, isn't it? Yeah. So he's a two-weight world champion, isn't he? I think my memory gets worse. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
He was 126 and then 130.
Yeah, WBO. He's moved up pretty quickly, isn't he? Really, Shakur, very, very quickly.
Well, we'll see how he does without Floyd. Let's move on to the next thing. Number 13, John Ryder defeated Danny Jacobs and Zach Parker in last year. What did you guys think of those wins?
Impressive. I was impressed with Ryder's wins. Obviously, it's the controversial victory against Jacobs, and we don't really know what would happen in the Parker fight. We don't. On paper, they're good wins.
On paper, they are good wins because Parker was an undefeated fighter. He was going for the title in that one. I mean, the interim title in that one. And in the Jacobs fight, Jacobs is a two-time champion,
Legendary fighter, yeah, legendary fighter.
So that's definitely a good victory. I don't think he beat Jacob
It was
personally, but
close. It was very
If
close.
that fight had been a few years earlier, Jacobs would have destroyed him, in my opinion.
yeah,
Seriously.
and the Parker fight, the way it ended, it's.
Controversial.
I mean, he won, so I'm not going to take nothing away from him. He won the fight.
He's going to fight Canelo next. Let's see how he does. He has some good tactics. I like the way he blinds you, but puts the left hand on your face and then comes in with the right.
Again, John Ryder is another guy like a Joe Smith Jr., a guy, if he was fighting anybody else other than Canelo, he would win a world title. I believe that.
But he's better than Joe Smith. He's a better boxer. He's slick. He gets close to you.
What I'm saying,
hit you. He's slick.
If he fought anybody else for a vacant belt, he would win. Anybody else in the top 10, he'd win. But it's just Canelo, he's got to take that fight. He's got to take, he's the mandatory. He's got to take the payday.
Well,
I want Canelo.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think he's got a chance against Canelo, but I think, he as long as he does well in it, he'll get another big money fight and he'll get another world title shot somewhere else down the line, further down the line.
So you think John Ryder's fight is going to be more like Rocky Fielding versus Canelo or Callum Smith versus Canelo?
I think it's going to be like I think he's going to get knocked out in about 6-7 rounds because the gap between the two guys is too great.
Yeah.
6th or 7th round, Canelo will knock him out. There's too much of a golfing class.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't even know if he goes 7, but
yeah. Okay, well, let's go to 14. We talked about Shakur a little bit, but he unified 2 titles with the win over Oscar Valdez and also defended against Cansei. I can't pronounce his name. Canciao. Yeah, the Brazilian guy. So he's definitely on the rise. We discussed him a little bit.
Who are we talking about? I didn't hear.
Or Stevenson, he unified 2 titles with the win over Oscar Valdez, and then he defeated Canciao. He fought twice. So I think there's a collision course for those guys at 135 going to be happening next year, at least a few of them. And we'll see. But he's definitely somebody that he's in Bud's camp, right?
They all in the same camp.
That's great. I mean, where else would you want to be? I mean, sparring that young with Bud and him taking under his wing is great.
What's he called is in that camp with them too. The young prospect Keyshawn Davis, he's in that camp with them too. So
look at those guys. What do you think of those guys, Nathan?
What, Keyshawn Davis?
Yeah,
I think he's a future world champion. Very, very soon.
Right.
When he'll say he'll win a world title.
So all of those guys, him and Shakur, and all were in, at Bud's gym, all training with Bud.
It's certainly healthy that all those guys are fighting each other, and they're going to get better as a result of it.
Yeah.
So
the saying of iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, exactly. If you're with people that are better, you're going to get better, aren't you? As a result, by default almost.
Right.
For me, Keyshawn Davis looks like a guy who looks like he could be better than some of the other guys. That's what I'm starting to look at. I think
like his where he's at right now after like 5 or 6 or whatever fights he got. It's like, wow, I'm thoroughly impressed with how
he looks better than what Shakur did at this stage.
Right. All right, let's move on to 15. And this was an impressive win for Joe Joyce over Parker, KOing him. Did you think he was going to KO Parker? I didn't think he would KO him.
No, I knew he'd win, but I didn't think he would knock him out so easily. I didn't think he'd destroy him.
What about you, Spencer?
Yeah, I didn't think so. I thought Parker would be able to last 12 and it would be a good, like it would go to the cards. Joe Joyce. Oh, man, he's impressive.
He was.
Right, when I saw him when he started his career and where he's gone, I knew he was good. I thought, he might get a world title shot. But now I'm starting to think he's an actual real threat. Seriously. It's a shame he's not 10 years younger because he could go on and dominate that division, With him being like 37, he's really pushing it now, It's now or never, really.
My father told me from when he was fighting, he said, some guys you could go in the ring and hit him square on the jaw and they drop. Some guys you could hit him with a baseball bat.
And they're not going to fall.
And Joe is like that. It's like you're hitting a tree, and the tree keeps leaning on you, and the tree keeps falling up.
Do you know who he reminds me of? Another guy. He reminds me of a young George Foreman. The way he fights, but more destructive than George Foreman. He's more destructive. I'd say.
Well, young George Foreman was really destructive. So.
Oh yeah. But Joyce,
a boxer.
Who was a better boxer?
George Foreman.
Oh, he was, yeah. Because Joe, he moves forward. He throws a punch. He doesn't care what direction. He throws them from all directions. You know, his work rate is amazing for a heavyweight. His work rate.
Well, I hope he gets a title shot before he's 45.
Well, he's supposed to get one because he's in position to. So if Usyk isn't supposed to be fighting, I don't even know because WBA supposedly ordered Dubois to fight.
He was actually ahead of Dubois in the rankings for the WBA, so he should have been the one to fight Trevor Bryan. I don't know how Dubois, we know that.
Hold on. I got to take this. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Okay. But would you agree that Joyce is way ahead of Dubois?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I'm also wondering, why did Dubois get the title shot ahead of Joyce? I don't understand it. You know, Joyce should be the one who's the regular champion right now, not bloody him, you know?
I think maybe they wanted Joyce to actually go after Usyk that way, and if he was to go after the WBA title, maybe they wouldn't have mandated that fight as quickly as him being a WBO titleist.
So for me, Parker, his career options are dwindling here. You know, he's got Lucas Brand as a big fight for him, but you know, I'm not sure that Parker really wants it anymore. He's made a lot of money. He's been a world champion. He's had unification fights.
I wouldn't agree with that because he's been fighting pretty steady. Wanting it.
But he made 7 million for his fight against Anthony Joshua. He's already a multi-millionaire, you know. Whereas I think he's had his world title win. I don't think he'll ever get back to that level again, you know.
Well, you know, he'll be up there. You know, guys will have to get through him to get a shot.
He's definitely a top 10 fighter, but he's not nothing more than that, you know.
So
might not be a title shot, but he definitely could be in some good fights.
Definitely.
Yeah, but he's never going to get back to that level again.
So what did you guys think here? Number 16, Josh Taylor wins the controversial decision over Jack Cattrall last year.
He didn't really win it, did he? He lost that fight, you know, and that's more you can say. You can't say any more than that.
And wasn't he stripped of 2 of the belts?
3.
He vacated them. He
was going to get stripped if he didn't.
Yeah, so he just vacated.
Because the WB at first he was like, you know what, the weight. He used the performance because of his weight. He's like, you know, 140 is hard for me to make the weight, so I'm moving up.
I think he wins the rematch. I think that Taylor wins the rematch because I think he's a better boxer than Carroll. I think he had enough night. I think Taylor had enough night. I think what he should have done, he should have vacated his belts and moved up. That's why I think he's too big for the weight. Vacate, move up, get one of the belts.
Yeah, because right now, we're wasted. You wasted 1 whole year to just do the rematch. Yeah. And it's only for one of the titles.
That is a waste of
time. 1 belt. Right. Like Jack Cattrall should feel slighted. It's like I want to fight for undisputed, and now in my rematch, it's only for 1 belt.
If Taylor loses this fight, then it's ruined his career. He should have said, right, I've beaten you. I'm moving off. Fuck you. You know, he's a big. He doesn't need this rematch. He doesn't need it. If he loses, it's over. You know,
especially when it got postponed. Like the first time it got delayed, I would have been like, I'm moving up because of if the excuse of him not being able to maintain the weight, you waiting longer to have to stay at a weight that you can't really stay at.
Yeah,
and now we run a risk of.
The same way Duke said to Apollo Creed, we don't need this baby, we don't need this guy. Let's get out of here, let's move on. You don't need this guy. He's all wrong for it. That's how I feel about this fight.
Yeah. But great fighters fight the other great fighters. I mean, Muhammad Ali didn't need Ken Norton 3 times or Joe Frazier.
No, he bloody well didn't. But
you know, he didn't need to get his ass kicked, you know, that badly. He never rematched with George Foreman because Foreman retired.
Foreman would have beaten him if they'd rematched because it was too dangerous. Standing on the ropes for 8 rounds.
Foreman, I think we might have to say that the right way, Paul. Foreman retired because Ali didn't give him a rematch.
Right after Jimmy Young beat him, he had a spiritual vision.
He was dispirited. I heard he had. I think I read listened in an interview one time. Foreman was saying that Ali wanted his guys to be in his corner or something like that in the rematch. Some stuff that Ali was trying to put stipulations on a rematch.
But if he'd kept on fighting, if Foreman had never retired, surely he would have made it to have fought Mike Tyson. You know, we could have seen George Foreman, Mike Tyson.
They could have actually still fought because when he came back, he was a champ and they was floating around each other.
But would you say if George, because he retired, what was it, 1978 he retired, 1977 he retired or something?
77, 78, something like that.
Yeah,
and he came back in, 87, didn't he? So if he'd never been away from that period, how much better would he have been the fighter if he'd, been there? Or did that 10 years probably rejuvenate him? Did that 10 years off?
He would have had guys on his record if he never retired, because the Ali lost. If he would have been able to get over that stuff and
Larry
move on
Holmes,
past that, he would have had the guys like Witherspoon, the Pages, the Tates, Larry Holmes, obviously. Michael, not Michael
Thomas. He would have had Pinklin Thomas.
Those guys.
He would have smashed a lot of those.
Bone Crusher. He would have had those guys.
Let's move on.
Far back right now. Let's stay in 2022.
Let's move on. Yeah, okay, we'll move on.
At 17, now Dow, T-Rex Shields unifies all 4 titles with win over Marshall. What was that like in England, Nathan?
It was impressive. People expected it. We knew it was going to happen. We expected
it was a good fight. It was a good fight.
We didn't want Shields to win, but we knew she was the superior boxer with all the ability.
People in Birmingham and over there didn't want people.
No, but they don't know boxing. A lot of these people don't watch boxing the same we do. It's like, she's from things, she must beat this American one. Do you understand? We knew anyone who knows their boxing knows how good Shields is.
What did you think of it, Spencer?
Well, I'm a big supporter of Clarissa Shields, so I'm very impressed by the victory. It was good that she did it. She did it overseas. It was a big fight for ladies boxing in general. It was I heard it was the most watched. It was a good year basically for women's boxing in total. I don't know, you probably got this on your list too, but at first earlier in the year they had the Katie Taylor Amanda Serrano fight that did good numbers. That did good numbers, and then this one did great numbers. So it hopefully this is a trend for 2023. You might have some big fights coming up. Well, people pay more attention to the ladies.
They're gonna probably do the rematch, but that's a good segue into 18 because Katie Taylor defended against Serrano and Carbajal her 4 titles, and those were good fights.
Yeah.
I mean, Serrano, I think if she would have kept the gas going the last few rounds, she would have won. It was
that was a close one. That was a close one.
A beating. I mean, I thought she broke her nose. I thought she broke Taylor's nose.
Yeah, that was a close one. I probably would have, if I was a judge, I might have voted for Serrano for that one. But that was definitely a close one. I'm not upset with the verdict or whatever. Like I said, it was a good matchup for women's boxing. It was well marketed because it was in New York where there's a big Irish population and a big Puerto Rican population. So to have those two compete in Madison Square Garden, it was genius.
It used to be the Irish and the Italians, and now it's the Irish and the Puerto Ricans.
Yeah, so New York is like San Juan too.
Yeah. So. We got our pockets of different ethnic groups. But what did they think about Katie winning over there, Nathan?
People thought it was impressive. She's a boxing star. She's very good. We expect it of her.
Do the English support the Irish fighters?
Not so much, but we get behind them.
Well, yeah. Well, Fury's Irish, right? He's an Irish.
No, he's British. He's English.
I thought he was an Irish.
So,
No, Irish descent.
so is it a particular part of the UK that might support the Irish more? Like, obviously, I would think that Northern Ireland is, since they part of the UK, they would probably support the Irish.
I'll explain this very quickly. The Northern Irish people can qualify and win the British title if they want to, can fight for the British title, whereas the Republic of Ireland can't fight for the British title or the Commonwealth because they're not part of the Commonwealth. Only Northern Irish can fight for it. Barry McGuigan was from Northern Ireland, so he won the British title and he can win the Commonwealth. But if you're Irish, you can fight. I think you can fight for the Commonwealth, but you can't fight for the British.
Does it have to do with religion if you're Catholic or Protestant?
No, it's because Northern Ireland's part of the UK, is it?
I see.
We've got the same government.
Okay.
Yeah, the UK is Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England.
Right. Is Ireland on itself?
Oh, that adds a little controversy.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Well, let's go into 19. We had the monster, Naoya Inoue, became undisputed champion with wins over Donaire and Butler. What do you guys think about him?
He's a very good fighter, but if you're fighting old guys like Donaire and European level fighters like Butler, you shouldn't be putting them away, putting them to sleep.
Well, he did with Butler and he did with Donaire.
Yeah, but 11 rounds to beat upper European level guy.
Butler, to be fair to Inoue, Butler did not come to fight. He did not come to engage in nothing like that. And it's hard. It's harder to beat a guy. You're right. He should have more on his level. Like, he should be able to cut rings off quicker and stop this guy quicker than that. If this guy's not trying to engage, he should be able to do that. So yes, I am in agreement with that. However, he didn't come to fight. It's not like he was standing there in front of him for 11 rounds and engaging with him, and then he couldn't knock him out or nothing.
Well, 4 or 5 years ago, Inoue was looking great. He was knocking people like that McDonald guy was a better fighter than Butler, in my opinion. He knocked him out in 1 round.
So you're saying he needs better competition, is what you're saying?
I think he needs to go up. Yeah, I don't think there's a competition at this weight for him. He needs to move up probably a couple of weights to get a competitive fight. A really competitive fight.
And to be honest, I also want to see him fight a slick boxer type guy. I haven't seen, like, on his resume, he's fought some impressive guys, but those styles might have been tailor-made. I want to see how he would do. And if he moves up and fights Fulton, then we might be able to see that type of fight. Fulton can slug, though. Fulton can slug, but he can also box. So
that brings us to number 20. Steve Fulton unifies the WBO and WBC super bantamweight title with win over Figueroa, and then successfully defends against Roman. So that's a good segue into that, because I see Inoue, he's got very sound fundamentals, but Donaire in the first fight was able to penetrate that. So, fighting Butler after defeating Donaire and knocking him out, fine, but when he gets against somebody like Fulton, then we're going to really see what he's made of if he moves up to that.
I still think he's a better fighter. He's a better fighter.
So Fulton won those two. What did you think of it, Nathan?
Good performance, but he's still green and he's still developing as a fighter.
I think he's got everything right now. He's got everything. He just has to know, when to slug and when to box.
Yeah, he has to.
In his early 20s.
Yeah. I mean, he probably will be better than what he is today. We might not have seen the best Fulton, yet, but he is good. He's like the package.
It seems a shame to see fighters win title when they're still green. I know he's a good fighter, but it's like it's almost too easy now.
Well, if you look at the landscape and the guys that he had just recently beat in like Leo, Figueroa, Romain, those guys are the top level guys. So
Yeah. But
he doesn't have a high knockout ratio. That's the only thing. He's a very good boxer. So
The problem is you're meant to be learning when you come, not when it's like I don't feel fighters have enough learning fights now. They don't have enough. There's not enough, you know what I mean?
well, he had a good amateur career. Well, we'll see. He's young yet. He's only had 21 fights, and so he's got a way to go. And but he's 28. He should be peaking by now. He should be peaking over the next 4 years, and we'll see if he actually gets in some of those really good fights with Inoue or any of the other champions around it. There's a lot to be had right now.
I think the other guy, what's his name, Makhmadov or whatever, that's in the other two. He carries the other 2 belts. That'd be nice.
He's strong, Makhmadov, he's strong.
Yeah, I mean, Inoue could fight him too. He could move up and fight him too, Makhmadov.
He could. Well, we'll see how it turns out, but he's got my attention just like Boots has my attention. Even though
let's talk about Estrada beats Chocolito again. This was an impressive performance.
I don't know if I agree that he beat him again. I mean, Chocolito's style makes it look like he's getting hit when he's not getting hit.
Yeah, that was a tough one because right. He might look more active, but not everything was connecting.
Yeah.
Chocolatito, that was a close fight though, so I'm not mad at the victory, verdict rather.
It's close, but I think Chocolatito had a couple of bad decisions over the past couple of years. But I don't know where he's going from here. He's getting old, and taking a lot of shots. I don't know what else, where else he could go now. I mean, he's a top guy for sure. But he's like the old timers. They would win the title, lose the title, win the title back, lose it back, win the title again.
Yeah, that's probably going to be what happens to him. His next fight is something he might get into a fight for a title. Bam is, like I said, is moving down, so maybe he could slide over and fight for a vacant WBC.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe we'll see. But listen, guys, that was my list. I got to go and do a gig soon. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we
there was. Off? Yeah.
What is it?
Thank you for doing the show this year, and I've enjoyed it. It's been enjoyable.
Oh, a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun. And
all right, man.
A very, back. Let's get together again, 2003, and start up next week with a new show.
I'm gonna need that Lamborghini you got. I mean that what is this DeLorean you got? Because it's 23. Because you keep saying 2003. Like I'm gonna need that DeLorean you got to go back to the future.
DeLorean, back to the future.
Yeah. Anyway,
we better go.
What are we going to say?
What are you going to say?
No, go ahead. Sign us off.
I was going to say, I hope 2023 brings you all happiness that you want in your life and your loved ones. And I also like to say a tribute to my brother who passed away a year ago on the 28th of December.
God rest
my condolences, man. Rest in heaven, man.
He was only 60 years old, and he lived a great life. And all I'm going to say is just live the life the way you want to live it. Don't live it for anyone else.
And he was a good brother to you, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Well said, Nathan.
He was a local headmaster, right, at a local school where he lived in his area. People loved him. It's filled with 200 people, lovely guy. And he traveled the world. He lived in Mexico. He lived all over the world. And his message was just live your life the way you want to live it. Don't worry about anybody else, And I think about him every day and I love him. And that's the end of the podcast, guys. We'll be back next week.
See you next year, man. Well said, man. Have a good one.